So hi everyone, my name is Christie Novak. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about social media and specifically Instagram and give you some ideas of ways that you may be able to use it in your course. I'm gonna stop a couple times during the presentation to answer whatever questions you have. If you'd like to put them in the chat bar as they kind of come to you, you can. If you want to jot them down and wait a little bit until I stop and then put them in the chat, that works too. But I will kind of pause based on when I think you'll more likely have questions and address them at that point. And then we've got some time at the end of the presentation as well. I've saved a little bit of time in case anybody does have to run and jump into another one. I know these are sometimes right back to back, or if there are any other questions that I didn't answer or missed along the way, we've got time at the end of the presentation for that as well. All right, so I guess we will then get started. So like I said, my name is Christie Novak. I teach accounting at Moyne College in Syracuse, New York. I'll talk a little bit about accounting, but I think what's really nice about using Instagram and social media is that it does apply to a very broad range of courses. So I'll talk a little bit about accounting, but probably not a lot, more about how you can integrate in your own content, in your own course material into social media and Instagram. So while we are getting started and people are joining us, just to get a feel for where we all are, nice virtual meeting that we can have, I've got a screen up here that you have the ability to actually annotate on. Those of you that are familiar with Zoom might have used this or maybe are interested in using this in your class. But I am sharing my screen, so you should be able to hover towards the top of your screen and there will be a drop down that comes up that says you are viewing Christie Novak's screen. And right next to that, there's view options. And somewhere along that view options, there's gonna be a word that says annotate. If you click on that annotate, it'll pop up that next bar. And then again, somewhere along that bar, it all kind of varies based on how you're using Zoom, you're gonna see something that says stamp. And if you click on that, it's going to give you a bunch of different options from hearts to check marks, lots of different things that you can use to annotate right directly on my screen. As I see some of you already are, great, thank you. So if you are not in the United States right now, you can maybe just annotate there. You can try writing, or you can use the text. The text will actually allow you to type in there, or you can enter into the chat bar where it is that you are either from or currently residing now that we're here. I'll give you guys a few minutes just to get a feel for where everybody's from or where you're located right now. I'm in New York. It's the first time, I think, in the last couple of days that it has been rainy, but usually sunny, quite out of character for upstate New York. Oh, wonderful. We've got the Philippines, we've got France. Wonderful. Alaska, nice. Toronto. Russia, Puerto Rico. Okay, now this isn't a Zoom session, but if you are using Zoom, this is a great way to get your students involved. However, you have to disable annotation to get them to stop. So maybe not with your undergrads, because then this will just continue on and on for a very long time. On your next slide and the slide after that, they'll start writing. But it is a nice way to get them engaged if you are looking for ways to get them engaged on Zoom. All right, I'll give you another few minutes or so, minute. Yeah, same, exactly. Same with using the whiteboard. Awesome. We are from all over. This is so cool. From all over the place. Okay, I am going to cut us off so that we've got adequate time to actually talk about Instagram and not just Zoom. So I'm going to clear this off so that we can go to the next couple of slides and start talking about Instagram. But thank you all for participating. I'm happy to see where you're all from. Oh, wonderful. Okay, wonderful. All right. We have rain here, so hopefully everything internet-wise is working okay for me. I'm going to stop this, just clear us out so that we can keep going, but I see you. You're all from great, wonderful places all over the place. Such a cool feeling that we can do all of this. So I'm going to clear this off and start talking about Instagram. Before we do that, I'd like to know how many of you have seen this particular view when you walk into a class. A few of us, right? This seems to be one of the more common views that I get when we're walking into the classroom. Yes. So either by a show of hands in the chat, raising hands. Yeah, it is definitely something that I've seen more frequently than I'd like to care to admit. But what I really started noticing is that our students are catching up with their friends, yes, but they're also getting information and getting valuable information on either Instagram or any other social media site. So I started thinking to myself, if they're really on Instagram or any social media as frequently as I think they are, shouldn't I also be putting myself out there? Shouldn't I also be one of those voices that they're hearing on their social media platforms? So instead of trying to shut it down, let me be a part of what it is they're already using. So what I'd like to get is more of this, where I have a student that might be using their phone, but are using it in a way that's engaging them in the learning process. So in this case, she's got a pen there, maybe, hopefully working through some sort of a practice problem. So that's where I wanted to try to get to. If I know they're using Instagram and social media at this point, does it really make sense for me to fight it? Or should I just put myself out there and be one of those voices? And so I chose to try to integrate Instagram into my course material, use it outside of class. So I'm definitely not asking them to be on Instagram during class. I want them to be present during class, but outside of class, being another voice for them. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm actually going to open up a poll at this point in time, and you should see it pop up on your screen in just a second. And I just want to get a feel for where you are all personally in your use of either Instagram, social media, and if you're using social media in your classes, what is it that you are using? So if you want to take a second and fill out that poll, and then we'll share our results. Yeah, so if you do end up using more than one social media platform in your classes, you can add that into the chat bar. Awesome. That's great that you started one just for this. So yes, I do end up, I created a separate Instagram account. So I personally have one myself, and then I created a separate one, it's Professor Novak, to use just for your class. So yes, you can have more than one account. I believe you just need more than one email. So I use my school email for that one. The poll that we used is in Zoom. Okay, I've got a few more that haven't voted yet. So let's give it another couple seconds or so. Okay, I'll give about 5 more seconds. right, if you're just joining us, welcome. We're talking about social media, and if you see the poll and want to fill it in, go ahead and do that. If not, no problem. Okay. I'm gonna cut us off here. I see there are still a few more, but I want to keep moving through this so that you guys can see where you're all at. So personally, what is that? 68% of us use Instagram. Most of us do. There's a very large percentage here, 32% that does not. So I've got some instructions for you as to how to set up videos and post to Instagram if you'd like, if you want to get starting in it. More than I thought. 27% of us here are using social media in your classes. So hopefully you will find some of the value that I've found in mine so far. And I definitely appreciate some of your experience here as well. And then we've heard a lot from in the chat, Facebook, some of you using Instagram, that's great. Twitter, a little bit Snapchat, some other, which I saw in the polls or in the chat as well. And then quite a few of you not at all. Great. So thank you all for sharing that. I'm going to rely on some of your experience too to kind of share what it has worked and what hasn't worked. Let's stop sharing that and let's talk about why Instagram. So if you are familiar with Instagram and really other Twitter and other social media platforms as well, but there have been quite a few influencers that companies have paid to just post about their products and their stories and get people to like them. So this first one here is just an Aeropostale ad. This one in the middle is Kendall Jenner. She posted on something and had over 3 million likes to it at that point in time. So there are celebrities that are out there that are posting about companies, posting about things that they're doing, posting about makeup or clothes, and just getting exposure out to other people. Firefest, if you're familiar with it, yes, there is some great documentaries on both Netflix and Hulu about it if you're not familiar with it. It was widely known for just really being, it was a festival that didn't really happen, and fraud, maybe not. We'll leave it up to you and the courts to decide. But one of the things that they did was they hired a whole bunch of influencers to post those orange squares. So all over Instagram, there were just plain orange squares. And if you're used to seeing a bunch of pictures, a solid orange square just looks out of place. So it draws your attention in kind of in the opposite effect that you would think a picture would, a plain orange square. You're like, wait, that doesn't belong. So they had a whole bunch of people posting these plain orange squares, these influencers, to get people to think that this was going to be a great event, that everything was going to be the next Coachella, was going to get people involved in their event. So just by posting a plain orange square, they have what they believe to be is reliable information from these influencers. So it is widely perceived that social media isn't the best way to get your information. I want to be that reliable source for my students. So yes, I'm going to post things from other companies. I'm going to post things from, in accounting, the AICPA. I'm going to post things from public accounting firms about accounting, about our course content, so they find who those reliable sources are. So objectives of what my activity was. I used Instagram. I'll go into detail about the activity coming up next in my introductory accounting course. And really my main objective was just to be something new, provide a unique and interesting way for my students to interact with the course material. It is typically accounting perceived to not be the most exciting area. And I have a lot of students that come in with that perception, like this class is going to be boring, I'm not going to enjoy it. So I want to try to put in something that even if they're not totally sparked or enlightened by accounting, they're at least being involved in it in a unique and interesting way. I also wanted to engage them in that learning process outside of the classroom in a low stakes activity. So yes, I've got homework assignments. Yes, I've got quizzes. Should they be studying? Sure. But if I ask them short, quick questions every once in a while, maybe they start thinking about ways to think about the course material in a different way. I'm hoping if they're studying for the questions that I'm asking them and pulling up their notes, it should improve their overall performance. And I also wanted to explain to them what accounting is. So again, many of my students have no understanding of what accounting or accountants do. And they're typically going to decide their major or their career after this first class. Do they like accounting or do they not? But if I don't explain to them what an accountant does, how are they going to learn? So one thing that I did that I'll talk about in detail is I went to actually accountants, went to go interview a bunch of accountants and put what their feelings were about accounting and how they decided to become a major and all of that up on Instagram for them to view. Hopefully after this, they've got a better understanding of accounting and what it means to be and have a career in accounting, what it means to be an accountant, and hopefully attract those ones that could be interested in accounting to that major. So again, these objectives are quite broad. You could easily apply these to any specific course that you're teaching or any subject area, but accounting is mine, so that's where we're at here. So here are the details. I'm going to go through the details of the questions first and the way that I've asked them, and I'll pause here and see what kinds of questions you may have, and then I'll talk about the interviews and the other things that I did. So in terms of my content, what I did is I posted a question, content-based question up on the stories. So those of you who aren't familiar with stories, they're full screen videos. So I just talked about the content, talked about the major area of that chapter, and then asked them a relatively short question. At the bottom of the stories, there's a spot where they can type back an answer, and that becomes a direct message to me. So I'm posting a story with a video, whole bunch of questions, one major question really, whole bunch of information about that content, and then they can reply to that story. So I'm going to ask them, our first chapter is related to the accounting equation. I'll talk a little bit about the accounting equation, remind them of accounting because they're in their social media lives and catching up with their friends. So they see me and they're like, hey, okay, we're going to talk about education here now. We're going to learn something. I bring them back to that chapter and then ask them a question. So with the accounting equation, there are 3 parts. What are the 3 parts? Give examples of each of the 3 parts. So a short question that they should be able to answer pretty much off the top of their head to get an understanding of, did they really pull away the major part of that chapter? I try to think of them as a knowledge check. So they're not quiz questions, they're not longer questions, they're just quick knowledge checks. I should be able to answer them quickly. Student responds to that story and it goes just as a direct message directly to me. No one else sees their responses. Their friends don't see their responses unless they're looking over their shoulder, but I'm going to be the only one that sees that. So we now enter into a one-on-one conversation. It is online, sure, but it's still a conversation, still an interaction that I'm having directly with one student. What I wanted to do is give them that low stakes opportunity to try something out. So if they think they know the answer, they can put it out there, say, I think I know the answer, and let me know what it is. And if they don't, I can respond directly to them and let them know maybe where they went wrong or bring them back to a reference point for them to look at. For an example, I could say, look at the problem we did at the start of class yesterday, have them go back to that and then respond with their answers. Because it's direct message to me. It's not a Facebook wall post. It's not a discussion board post. No one else sees their answer. So it also takes away some of that peer pressure that students might feel in answering wrong, or the ones that don't answer in the classroom because they're afraid that people are going to think differently of them. Or if they're working with all of their friends, thank you, they're working with all of their friends and they look over at their friends' notes because they don't know the answer. I mean, I see it happen in my classroom all the time. I teach freshmen. So they're already anxious and nervous and they don't want to be wrong and they don't want to be judged and they're trying to make new friends. So of course, if they don't really know the answer, they're not going to speak up. But they also don't ask for help. So what I'm looking for here is for me to let them know that they need help if they need it. So if they're asking, if they don't know the answer, they can't get to it, let me send up red flags for them saying, hey, maybe you need to go back and look at this chapter again before it gets way too far past them. The stories are up for 24 hours. So they stay up for 24 hours. And then after 24 hours, I have posted on the account a little bit more of an explanation with the answer. So if they did go wrong along the way and still didn't understand what I said, maybe one more time in a video, they'll get the hang of it. So that was what most of my focus was on, is getting them about one a week, or one per chapter, depending on how it worked out, about one per chapter, of questions. Again, big picture questions to really just make sure they can check the box like, yep, I do understand this. This makes sense to me. Great. So with that, if you've got questions, I'm kind of watching them fly through in the chat bar. You can feel free to put them in now. I'm going to pause here to answer. No, all of my students didn't already have Instagram. I asked them at the start of the semester if they had them or if they would want to have one. One option I gave them is if they didn't want to create an Instagram account, I could email them the question and still have them reply. I want them to use it in the best way that they can. So if they're already using Instagram, great. If they don't, then I don't want to have to force them to get a social media account just to get bonus points. So I would be open to emailing them the questions just to make sure I had everyone included. I made sure at the start of the semester, so the question was, did any of your students push back about following an account or issues with students having private accounts? So I made sure to be clear at the beginning of the semester that I wasn't going to follow them back. I found that from many studies on all social media platforms, the biggest pushback from students is that they don't want us in their personal lives. And that's fine. I jokingly, but not really jokingly say, I don't need your drama in my life either. So like, I have no intention to follow anyone back. There's no need. I don't want to. I don't want to see it. I don't want to stop or be in that, or them in mine. So I make it clear my account personal is private. So if any of them try to follow me, I will just decline that. And they have the ability to do that too on their end. So they can follow my account, the Professor Novak account. That is open to anyone to follow, but I'm only posting accounting information up there, so I'm not really worried about that. But I do not follow them back and I don't request it. You can actually see that it says number following, it'll say 0, and it will be up there all the time. You can delete the page and create a new one for every class, but you can also just archive your posts. So for every post that you have, if you click on some of the options in there, you can archive them and it'll just save them. So you don't have to like create a brand new account. You can pretty much clear it out and then just start over again. Okay. How do I manage expectations and interactions? Okay, so expectations, I have not had any trouble in terms of people giving me anything that's inappropriate or anything like that. I would say I let them know about it, and if they want to be involved, they can. But I haven't had any issues with anyone doing anything inappropriate. I'm going to circle back to the too much work outside of class question, because I hope to illustrate for you in just a minute. How do I stop them from following my personal account? So it's private. So if they try to follow it, I have to accept them, and I'm going to see they're my student, and I don't. If you teach several courses, you create an account for each class. You sure can. I would say if you're teaching multiple sections of the same course, I've done that, and I would use the same account. There's really no need to do more than that. But if you are having different classes with different content, that would be when you would want to put different content on each of those accounts. So then you would probably like a different account for each class. I probably wouldn't recommend starting that way though. I would pick one that you're more comfortable with and start with that one first and see how it goes, and then go from there if you'd like to add to that. Yes, so if anyone does refuse social media, I had suggested an email. So I'll write up the same thing that I said in the video and email it to them, and then they can email me back with the answer, and that's fine. Yes, you can remove followers. You can. I actually just did. So there were still a handful of my students from this past semester that hadn't unfollowed me because I haven't posted anything, so they probably forgot they were. And you can go in and remove them. So even if you are a public account, you can remove followers from there too. Okay, ooh, different hashtags. That's nice too. That's a good way to think about it. Great. Okay. The only reason I removed them is because I am going to go to the same class next semester, and they shouldn't be in my same class again. So you don't have to remove them, or if like I know I'm going to use it for class or something like this, a presentation, I pull them off just in case they don't want to see what it is we're doing here. But yes, yeah, I mean, so I teach accounting 151. It's the introductory level class. So after they've completed 151, they should go to 252, the next one. And I'm going to post all of the same things again for 151. So they're not in that class anymore, really don't care to see any of that information. So they can remove themselves. I don't typically remove people. I just did this coming up. So you can create a private one, so only your students have access. Examples coming up, I promise. You can do that too. So you could make a private account. You would just have to approve them all coming in. So that's an option as well. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. I'll come back to more questions in just a minute. Other things that I did. So I had some interviews with professionals that I talked a little bit about. There's really two options with accounting. So two major options, I guess I'd say. You can go work in public accounting, where you work for an accounting firm, which is where most students start off. And then you have the option to go into industry or private accounting. So you're working in a company for a company and doing their accounting work. And so I went to interview a friend of mine that works in industry and to a local accounting firm and interviewed interns all the way up to a partner, and just got their ideas on a bunch of different things. I had my students submit questions if they wanted me to ask, but I asked, like, why did you decide to major in accounting? What is it that you liked about accounting? What is it that you do every day? How do you add value to a business? So really just giving them a big picture idea of what it's like to see their future in accounting. Like I talked about, most of my students are freshmen. So unless they know someone that's accountant, they really don't know what it is that we do. And that's fine. I don't expect them to, but it's my job as an accountant to let them know what their opportunities are. So I took the videos ahead of time and posted them to the account for them to watch if they'd like. If they didn't want to, they didn't have to, but I wanted to give them the opportunity to understand a little bit more about our profession and what the opportunities would be for them. I posted a bunch of reminders and updates like, hey, you have a test coming up in a couple days. Like, are you studying? Let me know. And then I used it this past semester, this spring, when we transitioned online. And I took a couple of weeks off for both my sanity and theirs, and then used that as really a place to ask them how they're doing, like creating that community where I'm saying, how do you feel today? What are you grateful for? What is something that you're looking forward to doing when school starts again? And then also asking them, like, how are you studying now that you're at home? They're in a new place. They haven't studied here in at least a couple of years, maybe recently, maybe not, but they're managing their time, managing 5 classes. Again, I taught freshmen, so they just got to college and just figured out how to study there, and then were sent back home again, and now they're trying to remember how to study there. So just like, what are your tips? What are the things you're watching on Netflix? What is it that you're doing? Just to kind of remind them that they're still a community. Even though they're not seeing each other in class, they still have one another to ask questions of, to lean on, and kind of steered away from content towards the end there, because at that point we were all just trying to make it through. So I didn't really feel like that was the best time to do that. Okay, last couple of questions and then I'll go into examples. So yes, you could definitely do an assignment. So if you wanted to create an assignment, other ways you could do that is you could have them post to the account and tag you. So here's what I learned about in my accounting class, or, oh, this reminds me of my accounting class, and tag you, and you could repost it for sure. Thank you, Alex, for posting that. Their responses were not to participation grade because I didn't want to force anybody into using social media. So what I did is I gave them 5 bonus points on their chapter homework that was out of 100. And that was 20% of their grade. So an extra 5 points each week. And then they could earn those bonus points. So it definitely wasn't a significant bump in their grade, but it's enough that makes them feel worthwhile. And they don't see each other's comments. No, it just went directly to me. And then I posted a summary that they could comment on if they wanted to. And you don't have to specify. As soon as they reply to that story, it comes directly to you. Okay, let me show you some things on my end, or if you're going to post on your end. So on the left-hand side, first one that's up there, that's your view of when you post a story. So that's me in my backyard enjoying the nice balmy May that we had. So you can see along the top, those are the little clips of the video, and you can click into any one of those and swipe up, and you can see anyone who's viewed it. So I've obviously blocked out their faces and names, but I can see all of the people that have actually watched the story. One of the things, if it's not too small on your screen, you'll notice is the longer the video, the more likely it is they stop watching. So it started with like 42 people, then 41, then 40, and works its way down to 39. So the longer you have that video, the less likely it is they're gonna watch all the way through. Try to keep it short and sweet. It is definitely more commonplace that stories are like quick things that I've noticed around me today, like here's my lunch, this is what I'm eating today, or this is my view from the beach. So they're used to being short. I would say you definitely don't want to go any longer than like 5 minutes. I would keep it between like 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes. It's more important that you bring them back into your content. So again, they're looking at their friends' lunches and their beach picture and the new shirt they bought, and then they see you. So trying to get them back to, okay, we're going to talk about content now, we're going to talk about my course now, and then ask them a question. So as short as it takes for you to do that, but you definitely don't have to make it longer. In the middle is what comes back to me. So they see my video, they can type along the bottom their answer, and then it's gonna look almost like a text message, like an inbox, text message inbox, email inbox. You'll see all of their names and faces. Again, I blanked those out so you don't see them, but you can click into every one of those and it'll bring you to that last picture. So it's a one-on-one conversation that you're having with your students. So you can see some of them, I just said, great job, like everything was fine, there you go, boom, 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 and we're done. Then after that, if they are not quite on the right track, this is where you can have that conversation with them. So I said, I think it was she, I honestly don't remember. They posted a picture of something that they had written down and said, how's this? And they all looked good except for that first one. So I told them, take a look at that first one again. It's just like the one we did with equipment in class. So bringing them back to an example that should be in their notes, one that we did in class so they can see what that one looks like and then apply to this new scenario. Clearly didn't get the picture, but the thing that I really enjoyed, which enjoyed is probably the wrong word, but what I appreciated is that they acknowledge I don't know what's wrong. So here's a student that came into this thinking, I got this. I know exactly how this works. Here's my answer. And then I've said, that's not it. But they've acknowledged I don't know. Good. One of the hardest things for us to figure out is that, what is it? We don't know what we don't know. Well, now they know what it is they don't know. So even if they have to go back to their notes and look again, at least they're going back to their notes and looking again. How much do I wish I could have my students do that, right? Like, please go back to your notes. That's what they're there for. So here's an opportunity. You're going back to your notes. I don't know what's wrong. Okay, that's good. Let's bring you to that point where you can figure it out. So this student may have, if they didn't answer this question, left this chapter, taken this quiz, and it wasn't until they got to a graded quiz that they realized, I didn't know this. Now I'm bringing that up and saying, hey, you don't know this, so let's study it so that when it is graded, you know how to handle it. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one and then I'll answer your questions in just a second. After all of that, 24 hours has gone by. I post up on the page itself, here's something that we talked about, here's like a recap of what it is we did, and then if they want to comment on the bottom there, they can. So if they did want to comment where they wanted everybody to see, then they can do that. These are just posts that will go directly to my account. The very last one there is the account. So you'll see a bunch of different posts that I did. The interviews with professionals are saved as highlights, which are the little circles kind of towards the top third of the page or so. They can click on those and re-watch those interviews with the professionals. So if they missed something or couldn't watch it all at the same time, they can always go back to those are saved. Okay, so here are what my students thought. What I really enjoyed is that they lined up with what I wanted from this. Like the fact that nobody else has used this, but they think it's beneficial. They enjoyed the interview with professionals. It required them to study harder. I couldn't ask for anybody to type anything better than that. It was like I told them, please tell me that you did this. It was great. I was like, thank you. This is exactly what I wanted you to take away from this. They thought it was a good way to connect with students, help them keep involved and engaged. What I really liked at the bottom there, I would recommend more professors try this out on their own methods. So here we are, we're at this point where I've given you some suggestions of things that I've done, hopefully some suggestions to start getting you thinking about using it. But students enjoyed it. Even if they didn't all want to be accounting majors, there were plenty of them. I asked them, like, how many of you actually still want to be accounting majors? There were like 6. So I didn't convert them, and that's okay. I don't want to necessarily convert people that don't want to be accountants, but I want them to have a reasonable expectation of what that is. If all it is they learned a little bit better, they studied harder, hey, great. If they were connecting with me on a personal level in a way that they felt like they could come to me if they had questions or if they were stuck, great. I've now built that relationship with those students. So I thought that was really awesome. Okay, let me circle back and answer some questions before it's your turn. So the posts to the stories can be as long as 5 minutes before they cut you off, but it's gonna cut it into like 30-second clips. If it's any longer than that, it does have to go to IGTV, but I would not recommend doing anything longer than that. Again, yes, on the stories, they can't see each other's responses. It would only be if you were to do a post. I really didn't want them to see anybody else's responses, so that's why I didn't do posts. But if it's something like a discussion that you want them to be able to bounce ideas off each other, then that could be an option for you as well. Okay. I did some regular posts, not as many. I would probably do more of the reposting things that other people have done, but those would go to the stories, or I guess you could do them as posts too. But I tried to stick more with stories to have that verbal connection, I guess, more video based. Okay, so at this point in time, I'm gonna lean to you. So if you haven't already figured this out, I like to be interactive. So this is our time to be interactive. I'm going to give you some time to try it out on your own. Here's the deal. So what I want you to do is just think about what you want to say. Think about a major concept in a chapter. It can be chapter 1. It can be the chapter that you've most recently taught or recently prepped. Just thinking about a major concept. So like I said, my first chapter is about the accounting equation. I just asked them, what's the accounting equation? And give examples of each of those 3 things. So it doesn't have to be this huge, giant problem. Just a quick knowledge check, major question. What you want to do is introduce the topic, bring them back to whatever your content is, ask the question. Be clear about what it is that you're looking for in their answer, and then repeat the question one more time. So I'm going to give you guys 2 minutes to just jot down ideas. So what is it that you think you might want to ask? Just one chapter, that's all. 2 minutes to jot down ideas. You don't have to do anything. If you've got pen and paper, you can jot it down there. If you've got your phone and want to put it in notes, you can do that too. But 2 minutes to just jot down an idea for something that you might want to ask your students. Okay, you got 2 minutes. Okay, you got a minute left. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds left. Okay, that is time's up. That was 2 minutes. So hopefully you have some sort of idea of what kind of a question you would like to answer. Next one up, we're gonna record. So if your video webcam is already off, feel free to leave it off. If you want to turn it off, you can. If you want to use your phone and just record a video just on normal photos and videos, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you don't want to record and you just want to talk at your camera, it's pretty much the same feeling. Talking at your phone, staring back at you, and talking at a blank computer screen also equally uncomfortable. So I'm going to ask you to try it out. Take 3 minutes now and just ask your question. So you jotted down something. Let's see if you can ask it. We should all be muted, so that's good. But see if you can just record something. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can start and stop if you'd like. Start over again, that's okay. But we've got 3 minutes here. So let's take 3 minutes and try it out. All right, you've got 1 minute left. Hopefully I'm not interrupting you. Okay, 10 seconds. Okay, that was 3 minutes. So in total, we took 5 minutes just now. I'm glad that it just sometimes didn't take you that long. That's good. That took you 5 minutes max. If you think about, you could do this all up front for every one of the chapters in your course. Most of us have somewhere between 9 and 10-ish. That's 50 minutes of time, less than an hour, that you can put together a bunch of questions and pre-record them. You can save them all to your phone and then post them when you're ready. It takes an hour. Even if it takes you, let's say, 10 minutes to answer all of your students across every time they do this, that's a total of less than 3 hours, 2.5 hours across your entire semester. So yes, it takes time, for sure. Everything that we do takes time, but you've already invested an hour of your time into just listening to me. So I think we're all here thinking, hey, we want to learn to be better. I could tell you, you could be a better teacher, make a better connection with your students in 2.5 hours, spread over 15 weeks. Not bad, right? So yeah, of course it takes time, but I don't think it's too much. Here's my steps for you. If you'd like to post yours, you log into Instagram. It's going to bring you to your home screen. If you swipe from left to right, it's going to bring up your camera in a spot that you can post stories. You can record directly from Instagram, but when you save them, it saves in little clips like what you see in my scenario here that I have. So I would recommend that you record it on your phone like you just did, like of any other video, and then post it from there. So if you'd like to just do it right from Instagram, if it's a quick something you just want to go, you can flip it back to make it face you, and then you press and hold that button in the middle. Or if you're just uploading from your phone, just swipe up. It'll bring you to your most recent pictures and videos. I post all of mine or save all of mine in my phone in a folder. Literally, it was just on there called Accounting Instagram, so I can find them faster. Then you can just pick those and upload them. If you've already, or if you're recording right from there, you can click this button in the middle that looks kind of like a download button to save your video. And then the last thing you do is just hit to your story and you post it. So a lot of it is just recording, and you can do that right from your phone the same way you did. So I would go right to your photos, videos that way, record them. You can record the whole semester right now. While you're sitting at home, you can do it from the same spot. You can wear the same clothes. They don't pay that much of attention. It's been a whole week since they saw the last one and they go away, which is even better. So you could do it all from the same spot. I kind of do it on the fly depending on what I feel like I want to talk about, but I would recommend doing that. With that, here's my advice. We talked about a lot of this already, but I wanted it all in one spot for you. So the major thing is keeping it professional. Like I said, research has shown that when students feel like their privacy is even potentially violated, they're less likely to be involved in that social media exchange. So keep it professional, make it clear that I'm setting my line and it's going to be a big black line that I am not going to cross. It's going to be a thick one. It's not going to be a dotted line. Like, I'm not going to cross that line. You're not going to see my personal life, maybe my backyard, but that's about it. And I don't want to see yours. So make sure that's clear. It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways for those of you that maybe aren't as familiar with using Instagram, is that it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. They don't expect it to be perfect. They get on there and just like talk to their friends. So they don't expect you to be perfect or read from a script. You can stutter the same way you do in class, and that's okay. As you're starting out, I would make a schedule. Come up with each day, what day you're going to post. Make sure that you don't forget. How easy is it to like have gone through the whole day and be like, oh, look, it's 7:15 on Wednesday and I didn't do anything I was going to do today. That happens frequently to all of us. So if you have that schedule, even set a reminder in your phone to just post it. If you've got them already recorded, it's a simple swipe up, hit post. Again, keep it short. But I think another thing here is be responsive. You're asking them to take time out of their day to answer your questions. Respond back to them. It doesn't have to be immediate. They don't expect it to be. honestly, they're probably going to be more surprised that you're using Instagram at all. So the fact that you're even there is something, but reply back to them. Even if it's just a great job or a thumbs up, if that's all you want to do, get back to them. There is a way in your settings to set an alert or a reminder on your phone that will pop up when someone sends you a direct message. So as soon as you get one, you could get an alert on your phone. Whether you choose to answer it at that point in time is up to you. But that way you don't have to keep logging in and checking like, hey, has anybody answered yet? I don't know. You can get those alerts and be notified. I would recommend giving incentives. I think they are more likely to respond because you have those incentives. Even more important for accounting is that we typically see like a double hump bell curve. I've got a lot of A's and I've got a lot of C's. My A students are going to respond without incentives, and that's great. And I'm glad to have them there, but this really isn't for them. They're going to study on their own. They're going to go and do all that work on their own. It's for my C's to try to get them to be B's or A's. I want to try to target those students that might be struggling and let them know ahead of time that they're struggling, so that way their grades aren't impacted. So if they walk into the classroom knowing like, hey, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at accounting, I don't think I'm gonna like this, oh, but she's giving bonus points. Maybe they'll be more likely to respond knowing that they're striving for any way to improve their grade. So differing perspectives, I would say I used platform to talk to professionals, but you can also just repost other people. So reposting other companies or firms in your industry or news articles or anything else, so it's not just you. It doesn't have to all fall on your shoulders to create all of this content. And then the last one, be yourself. Like, they're here to connect with you, and they're here to have that dialogue with you. So the same way that you don't run into being a different person in the classroom, you don't have to be anybody else here. So that's my advice. I see there's a number of people that are asking for slides. I'll follow up with Alex and those at Coursera to see if there's a way that you can get them. I'm happy to share them. But there is also my contact information. So if you are running into questions, if you have worked, if it's worked for you really well and you want to share that, please do. I very much appreciate that. But there is all of my contact information. I'm going to answer a few more questions that have come up in the chat, since I know there were some. Yes, I'm glad you think it's a cool way. That's great. Stories. So the stories, if you go to like your homepage, they're going to pop up as the little circles along the top, and people can you pretty much just scroll through them. So as soon as you start watching one and that person's is done, it's going to bring you to the next person, to the next person. So you just continuously watch. The way to post them is what I had on that screen up there. I'll bring it back up in a minute just so you can get to it. And then it'll pop up with a little circle around your face, letting you know that you have posted to a story. There is a way to subtitle. There's a couple of other companies that you can use as apps to roundabout way to subtitle them. I actually just asked a friend of mine who had put some really great subtitles up on her stories how she did it. So I actually did just ask that question because I think that's a pertinent thing to have. But there are a few apps that you can use where you can upload the video there first and then bring it into Instagram and it will subtitle for you. If you Google it, there should be a couple of options available for you. And if I find out more, I will let you guys know as well. Okay, so the easiest way to get the slides, I can put them up on my Course Hero profile. So if you would like the slides, here, let's do this because Alex is telling me this is the best way to do that. There's my Course Hero profile. So if you would like, I can go and post these up there for you. I'll go do that as soon as we're done here so you've got them and can remember. But there's me in Course Hero. And again, my email is up on the screen here. So if there is anything that you want to address on an individual basis, I'm happy to help or just troubleshoot or answer questions, but I will go get those slides posted for you. Awesome. Okay, well, I don't think there's any more questions in the chat. I'm happy to hang around for a few more minutes in case somebody has one that I missed along the way, or if anybody else has any other questions. But thank you all for coming. I very much appreciate your time. I know we're all busy, so thanks for being here and listening, and I hope I gave you a little bit of advice, a little bit of suggestions to help you get through next semester. So thank you everyone for coming. Stay safe. Okay, thank you everyone. I'm seeing some questions that pop up. If you have two different courses, would it be easier to create hashtags? You could, they would definitely just have to be unique hashtags so that other people's content didn't get mixed in with yours. But it might be an easier way if you have two different courses to keep track of which content goes where. That could work, and have them follow the hashtags. Yes. You would just also have to hashtag all of your stories in themselves. So once you upload the video, in each segment, you'd have to hashtag each segment, and that could work. Again, you just want to make sure that it's specific enough that nobody else's content is getting in there. A recording of the presentation will be made available. Wonderful, thank you. Thanks, Samson. Oh, I just missed one, hold on. There are apps that can schedule stories, yes. I only know of paid apps, so I would rather just set a reminder in my phone and upload it, but it is up to you, yes. I'm not sure of any of the names at this point. I'm drawing a blank, but you should be able to Google it. There's some pretty robust ones that are really made more for companies that are posting, but yes, there are some. I would rather just set a reminder on my phone, but that'll work too. Awesome. Okay, I think I got all of the questions. If anybody else has any questions, if you want to go ahead and put them in the chat so I can answer them. If I missed them along the way, I apologize, repost them so I can see them here. But if not, you are free to go. Copy down my contact information. Let me know how things are going for you throughout the semester.